Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Tennis Weekly with Joel, Kim, and Chris. On today's Roland Garros Day 7 catch up,
Defending champion Gauff is upset by Potapova,
Sabalenka sets up Osaka clash.
and Sinner conqueror Cerundolo's run continues with a 6-hour marathon win.
Chris, today is the 30th of May, and we are here to catch up on Roland Garros Day 7 at Tennis Weekly HQ. And on today's episode, the shocks keep on coming, not on the men's side, but the women's side, as defending champion Coco Gauff is upset by Anastasia Potapova in 3 sets. It wasn't a great day for the Americans because Anisimova also out to home hope Diane Parry. Osaka and Sabalenka have also set up a tantalizing round 4 battle. And on the men's side, we had history continued to be made. Lots and lots of 5-set matches, including 2 of the top 10 longest ever matches to be played at Roland Garros today. We've also had the backdrop of fireworks from PSG's win in the Champions League final. So it's all kicking off. It is all going on. We're going to be looking ahead as well to day 8, the start of round 4, and we have Jannik Sinner's conqueror. Well, say Jannik Sinner, sorry. I mean, Novak Djokovic's conqueror, João Fonseca, in the night session against former 2-time finalist Casper Ruud. So we're going to be diving into that in the second half. But Chris, we haven't actually spoken since the matchup between Fonseca and Djokovic ended in Djokovic being dumped out. I feel like he was the favourite for a hot minute, but Fonseca, the hype has been realised.
Yeah, I think even Kim's had to get on board with the hype train now. I did listen. I think she's ready for Fonseca to do something
Yes.
extra special. And I
So
was
he's going to go out
actually,
limply to Rude in 3 sets, isn't he?
it's hard to back up a win, so we're not going to get too excited. I think the pressure might be monumental after this. I think everyone like globally has taken note of such a result. But I was actually, I have to confess, I'm now back in Denmark. And I was watching it in the airport. My flight was delayed. So I was actually quite pleased my flight was delayed, but I was very anxious boarding my flight from
Where were you watching it in the airport? Were you in a
it's
nice
no, it's
little first class
everywhere.
lounge? Oh, it was on
Every
everywhere.
everywhere, all the screens. It's
Oh,
huge. I mean,
okay.
Roland Garros takes over Paris, unless the football's on. So I was watching that, and I mean, I was very impressed with the fact that he was, just going for it. I think it was so impressive, and I think I've definitely learned that, you cannot, roll back the years. There's no such vitality as youth, when it comes to some of
Mm.
these epics. I mean, the things that, some of these under 25s have been doing on the tennis court. I think if you're Novak Djokovic, you're going to be
Mm.
kind of concerned by the attrition of, the men six of the world, Cerundolo backing it up. It's a physical Roland Garros. But Joel, the update that I'm waiting for more than anything, has your air conditioning unit arrived before the heat wave ends? Because doesn't it end
Well, yes,
tomorrow?
the heat wave. Yeah, it is still hot today. The air conditioning unit has come, and it's come with this kind of weird funnel that needs to go out of the window. So it's actually more finicky than
Oh.
I was expecting, and it's a
A
bit
bit
more
like a tumble
bulky.
dryer where you had to put that thing out the window years ago.
Yeah,
But
it's sort of cooling the bedroom as we speak. So yeah, it has arrived, and I'm
great.
hoping.
I just
Yeah,
knew that that's the question everyone was
I
asking,
know
not what
everyone's been
happened
dying
today.
for the
Yes.
understanding to that. I mean, before we get into all of the action from today, just a very quick word on Novak Djokovic, because a lot of the fallout, a lot of the headlines have just been talking about the fact that has Father Time caught up with Novak Djokovic and his quest for Grand Slam 25. Is it over? Last view from Tennis Weekly HQ goes to you. What do you think on that?
I actually think he's playing better than he did last year at Roland Garros, even though he lost. I think, he could have won it. I mean, same with Yannick Sinner, one game away and then a night session match, and it could all be different. So I think the margins are so low. I think the door gets slightly more closed with each slam that passes now. But I think there's going to be opportunities for him. And I mean, am I going to say, is he going to do it? I wouldn't bet against it, but at the same time, these things are not a sure thing at all. It would be incredible if it happened, and I think it could happen, but I mean that there are if buts and maybes.
I think that's a good line to end on. There's a lot more ifs and buts now with Novak Djokovic. It can still happen, but there's a lot more uncertainty. I mean,
Watch him win Wimbledon now.
exactly. Don't count him out. We always have to think that with Novak Djokovic. But looking at today's action, we're actually going to start with the women's action because we had some absolute bangers in the women's draw today. Naomi Osaka's match was fantastic, but we've got to start with the Coco Gauff match, defending champion against Anastasia Potapova. Potapova has been on some seriously good form this clay season, from qualifying, from being a lucky loser. She's put in some very good performances, and perhaps her best performance to date this season. She took out Coco Gauff 4-6, 7-6, 6-4. Gauff was up a break in the final set, but was not able to get it done. Chris, how are you feeling about this result? Was this Potapova seizing her moment? Did she peak like João Fonseca, or was this more Coco Gauff losing it?
Well, I mean, I'm not going to fall foul of what Sabalenka said, where you say that one player, didn't play well enough to win it. So I will say that it was not a great match from either of them. It's a great contest, but 100 unforced errors is not necessarily great when you consider that they actually hit half the number of winners. So it was pretty scratchy at times. And normally you'd think that Coco Gauff would get through these sorts of matches.
Yes.
It's kind of her bread and butter, really is.
She's a great grinder on the court. That's what I was so impressed with Potapova, that mentally she was just able to stick with Gauff. Even when she was a breakdown in that third, it showed, she showed great strength, I think, to sort of stay in the battle against, as I say, one of the best grinders, I would say, on the tennis court.
Yeah, and she's so good at finding ways when, the forehand might go awry at times or the serve can go. She still can beat players. She really is. She is that tenacious. They always say the quote on the walls of Roland Garros and Philippe Chatrier's victory belongs to the most tenacious, and she normally is the most tenacious, Coco Gauff. I think that's a very Coco Gauff sort of phrase. So Potapova was more tenacious, it would seem. But I mean, if you're Coco Gauff, you're going to be questioning, the fact that you did go out so early here, because, I mean, Potapova is a great player. I mean, it's actually unbelievable to think that she was playing qualifying in Rome and a lucky loser in Madrid. Yeah. Then she got seeded based on the fact she had, two good runs. So I think it's a match Coco Gauff should be winning, but at the same time, she is a bit up and down this season, I think it's fair to say. And I think there've been matches where, she has got the win. And as we've talked about, she's so good at grinding these matches out. But she's faced match point against Iva Jovic when she played her in, I think that was in Rome. And she had to really kind of, dig that one out. So maybe her luck run out and this was the time that it ended. But I mean, it's a title defense that ends in round 3. The grass has not been a happy hunting ground for Coco Gauff either. What do you think will happen now? Because last year she didn't have a great, what would we say? She took her eye off the ball when it came to celebrating and the tours, press tours that she went on afterwards. And she said that she didn't actually get enough time on court. Got very late, I think it was, to Berlin, and didn't get much time before Wimbledon. Is this a blessing in some ways for a Wimbledon campaign? Because she would be disappointed, but at the same time, it gives her a chance to actually have a grass court season and do it properly, because there's no reason why she couldn't do well on the grass.
I agree. I think she's got a great game that can translate to the grass court. And I think one of the reasons, as you said, it didn't work out last season was her scheduling, and how deep she got in Roland Garros actually kind of compromised her as she got to Wimbledon. I mean, look at her results. She lost to Wong qualifier in Berlin, and then she lost to Yastremska in straight sets, 7-6, 6-1 first round at Wimbledon. So I do think, she's going to have a little bit more time to think about that transition, and perhaps can come back stronger. But there's no doubt that she would have wanted to go further here.
Would you take a wild card a week earlier, potentially?
I think I would if I'm Coco Gauff. I think she's got to just sort of go completely the opposite, I think, to how she treated the grass court season last year. And given she's gone out with, one more week to go, I think that's enough time for her to kind of reset and kind of find herself on the grass. And the fact is, she's not actually had that much match practice, I imagine, on the grass. I mean, 2 matches last season. I can't imagine she's played on much grass
Was it
since
two
then.
matches
So
and 4 sets or something like that? I mean, it
yeah.
wasn't many, well, not much time on court. And maybe, if she does play somewhere, maybe Serena Williams might be reaching out for another wild card. Who knows? But
Interesting.
I guess it's a bit surprising, how the top Americans have fallen today.
Yes, it has. I mean, it's not been a great day because Anisimova's out, Coco Gauff's out, Madison Keys is through.
It depends where you're from, though, Joel. If you're French, you'd be very happy today for the
That's very
women's
true.
side, at least.
Well, that's very true because I was going to ask you, who do you think benefits the most from this exit? Because Potapova is through, Chawlinska is also there, Chawlinska and French favourite Diane Parry also is there, who took out Anisimova. One of those players is going to make their first major semi-final. Who do you think could be the player to benefit most from the Goff exit? Does it put Potapova in pole position for you?
I think she could do something, but at the same time, I mean, Helinska she's been tearing it up. I
Mm.
think it's been a real announcement of herself on a wider scale. I think people had seen her in some doubles with Iga Swiatek previously, but this is another level of tennis that she's been producing. So I think this is genuinely the most open I've seen a section. I always rate Kalinskaya. I think when you go and watch her match, she plays so flat and hard. It's actually really fun to watch and a bit up and down today, but she's very dangerous. I think Parry is probably the player that I think is least likely to make it through that section.
What, you don't think lightning strikes twice? I mean, Lois Boisson got to the semi-finals last year. You don't think Parry can
Ooh.
channel that as
Well,
inspiration?
maybe because then we can call it these 2 years the Poisson story. That could be quite nice, couldn't it?
I
Bringing
mean,
out my
I
French
am
there.
just looking at Helinska's recent results, and she has been on the clay since the start of
She's
March.
got a great record. It's like 29 this year or
Yeah,
something.
it's very very good. I mean, she's been playing at 125 level. She's also played a 75 as well. Palmer 125 just before Roland Garros. So yeah, she's got a lot of match practice. I think Holinska could be the one, but yeah, we're gonna have to see how Potapova bounce. Kind of can she bounce? Can she replicate this form again?
Well, when you
Perhaps
say
we'll see.
replicate, I think she might want to go one
A
level
bit,
above this
one level
potentially.
above.
But I mean,
Yes.
it's quite tricky and quite difficult when you play against,
Mm.
players who there aren't high expectations for. And I think, for Anisimova today, and we were talking about this, it's actually was a tough matchup for her against Parry because when you look at it, it's kind of like the slices and sort of the
Yes.
those shots that she doesn't really enjoy it. And you kind of referenced watching her play in that, what was it, Joel, the semi-final
Yeah,
at
Queens
Queens
last year. It reminded me of that in the sense that
against Maria,
Anisimova,
was it?
yeah, against Tatiana Maria, who can is very good at upsetting um
The
play
rhythm.
opponents' rhythms with slice, different sorts of pace, spins, angles, and Anisimova is the sort of player who plays her best tennis, I think, when the ball is fed to her or it
A
comes at
hard ball,
pace.
flat
It comes at
ball,
pace at her.
regular pace.
She knows where the trajectory is going to be, and I think she really struggled with that. Against Parry. I always say felt in that match against Maria. I mean, obviously it's a while ago, but she just doesn't like getting low to the ball.
I mean, on
And I think
grass, you kind of have
Slice,
to, though, don't you?
yeah, and I think Slice is a very good tactic against her. Given that, I mean, just talking on the Americans, one American who is through is Madison Keys, came through in a roller coaster against Victoria and Boko. If we're being honest, probably should have been able to get it done a lot earlier than she did. But Chris, how surprised are you? Because I'm very surprised. We're talking about Madison Keys is the last American woman standing at Roland Garros. Does that surprise you a bit, or actually did you think this was going to happen all along?
Well, I don't think I'm as surprised as Madison Keys was when the fireworks went off during a bathroom
Oh
break,
yes, very
Joel.
true.
That was
Yeah.
quite a scene when PSG won, and it
Mm.
was in between the sets, I think, and the rockets went off, and that court is right by the stadium. So that match had everything. I mean, we talked about what do you call it, the roller coaster Garros.
Roller coaster Garros.
That's
Yes.
it. Sorry. And this match was kind of the exact sort of formula of that. She could have got it done sooner. Am I surprised? I mean, with Madison Keys on a tennis court, if she can swing a racket, you never know
She
because
did get to the she got to the final of the 125K in Paris a few weeks.
well, she had to withdraw
weeks
against
ago.
a certain Deanne Parry.
Very good.
Exactly.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I follow the Clarence Trophy, Joel. You know me, but I think yeah, she's so dangerous wherever she does play, and you just have to hope that she stays fit and healthy because there are question marks because she had to withdraw in that final. And Boko obviously heavily strapped as well, so I'm not sure how much that does affect her. She does tend to have quite a bit of strapping, but Keys, I don't think that
No
you can.
one's talking about her.
No, but you can't count her out because she's done it before, and I think
Hmm.
experience is lacking in some parts of the draw. I think she's in
Hmm.
a bit of a trickier section because the top, I mean, it's quite funny when you look at some of these sections of the draw for the women, especially when you have matchups like Osaka, Sabalenka that we'll get onto, and then you have other matchups like in other parts of the draw that seem a lot easier, like we've talked about, when we've got the Potapova versus Chawlinska
Yeah.
or Deanne Parry side of things. And she's got Diana Schneider in the next round, and then she'd play the winner of Sabalenka or Osaka. So it's not getting easy for her. So I think she should
Yes.
enjoy being the #1 American in Paris this year, but I'm not sure how long it will last.
I mean, perhaps match of the day on the women's section was Naomi Osaka's win against Iva Jovic, 7-6, 6-7, 6-4 over the number 17th seed. Osaka is through to the round of 16 of Roland Garros for the first time. I think it's
That's
also
mad. The first
I know.
time.
And I think it's also the first time she has got to this stage of a Grand Slam not on a hard court. So in some elements there is progress there. But what did you make of this match? Because this was, to me, two players both firing on all cylinders, and it was just great entertainment for the fans.
I loved it. I thought it was really high quality, and they were really kind of, it was a real tug of war. They were both playing better and better, and they were bringing out the best in each other. I think Osaka's
Mm.
movement was the best I've ever seen her move, almost. I think it was right up there with, that US Open final against Serena, where she was so good on the move, and she was so good today. And I think what I like about it is that it felt like an Osaka performance where you're confident. I was really confident watching her that she was going to come through it and the experience was going to do it in the end because she seemed calmer. And she talked about that after the match. She said that she's wanted it too badly in the past.
Mm.
And that's something that I've always said is that you can want it too much. And I think in this match, she had almost like a quiet confidence about her that, if this girl she's playing, Iva Jovic, if she does get better and better, Osaka knows she can go to those levels. And that's kind of what champions have. And I felt like I was watching, Osaka, the champion again. I felt like that at the US Open last year. I thought she could have got Anisimova. There was a real chance there for her. And I just can't believe that she hasn't had more success. I mean, in Paris, considering she has had, that match against Iga Swiatek. If you can take on
Mm.
the world's best on clay, match point, I was literally courtside for that match. It showed that she is a clay court. She can be a clay court player, and she's sliding a lot better. She's getting a lot better at the movement side of things. And part of me's thinking, Joel, could this be a bit of a Maria Sharapova story where, you never would
Mm.
expect it to happen, but then she became a two-time Roland Garros champion, having described herself on clay as like a cow on ice. So stranger things have happened, and I think Osaka, Sabalenka, I mean, that is going to be
Yeah,
blockbuster.
it is. I mean, Sabalenka came through against Kasatkina, 6-love, 7-5. Would you say Osaka's playing the better tennis at the moment on the clay?
I would. I think she's doing everything better than Sabalenka right now at Roland Garros. But we've seen this before that Sabalenka does play her best tennis against some of the best opponents. I think sometimes she does really
Mm.
like knuckle down, and then she really knows I've got to do this. I think against Kasatkina, for example, that second serve is so vulnerable,
Yes.
so vulnerable to Sabalenka. But in terms of who's playing the best tennis right now, I think
Mm.
Osaka is, and they did have like a really good contest on the clay this season, I believe. I can't remember. Was
Yeah,
that in
Madrid.
Madrid?
It was in
Yeah,
Madrid. Yeah, went to three
loved
sets. I mean,
loved watching that.
Sabalenka, interestingly, Sabalenka in her interview afterwards talked about that matchup, and she said she feels like Osaka is back, not playing her best tennis, but certainly playing to a very high standard.
She's close, I think. I think there's a
I mean,
level to go.
we were speaking before we were recording about the fact that if we were to get the elusive women's night match on Philippe Chatrier, you think this could be the match to do it? So can you explain to me and our listeners what's your thinking behind the fact that you think, are we going to get Aryna Sabalenka versus Naomi Osaka in a night session on Philippe Chatrier?
I am talking from what I think might happen. You can never predict what what the schedulers are going to do over there. I think because obviously last year they Prime did request the Brasson match, and this is the way that the night session works. For those who haven't listened to our coverage from last year, it is a subscription service for the night match. Everything else is on French national television, so they do have a say in what goes on that slot. And the contract is stipulated, potentially unconfirmed, that 3 sets need to be played. But it's not been said that it cannot be a women's match. It's not been a women's match, I think, since Sabalenka Sloane Stephens. I think I was also there for that one in 2023 or something like that. Yeah. So
I think we've had 4 in total. It's not like it's never happened. It's just not happened in so long.
Yes, but what gives me hope is that a man or men's match starting on Chatrier was rarer than a women's match in the night session. It was 53 in the last 5 years had been women's matches, 2 had been men's matches. So, we've had 2 men's matches start Chatrier. I'm thinking it could be time. I know there are conversations between the WTA and Roland Garros about the lack of equality that currently is there. But I might be going back on it because I think they need star power, because matches like, Felix and Nakashima, not to be disrespectful, but that is not blockbuster by any means. It might be long, but it's not going to be Osaka versus Sabalenka. But then I'm also thinking, are they going to, rectify the mistake of last year, not putting Pegula and Brasson on the night session match? Is Diane Parry versus Chawlinska going to be there? Or do they want that in the day? But either way, I think, I shouldn't really say this on the pod because I'm putting it out there, but Monday night it would be, I think we're having a women's night session match.
Oh, you heard it here, listeners first. Big
You are not convinced. You're looking at me like I'm actually mad, Joel.
Well, I'm maybe a little bit more confident because I thought
who else
maybe,
are they going to put on?
Well, I thought it might have been Kwame if he had stayed in the tournament, but now Kwame is out. I think the women's draw on this day is more intriguing, I think, than some of the men's matches.
I mean, how many Grand Slams have they got between them versus the rest of the men's draw? I mean, they are blockbuster and they're both huge stars. So, Joel, would you like to see it?
I would like to see it. Yeah,
would you schedule it there? Of course you would.
I think it's got to happen. I mean, one point of controversy from today in the Osaka match against Iva Jovic was with her with Jovic's clothing, because she asked the umpire if she could go off court to change her clothes. Now, she had already changed her clothes in the match, and rules stipulate that players are not allowed to change clothes twice in a match. This was played out quite interestingly, I thought. But according to the ITF tennis rulebook, each player in a women's singles match is entitled to a maximum of 1 authorized break per match, and that break can be used for going to the bathroom, limited to 3 minutes, changing attire, limited to 5 minutes, or you could do both simultaneously, and that is limited to 5 minutes. But there was no dice given to Jovic. What did you make of this, Chris?
Well, I think it's a bit harsh when it's so warm. I think that's probably what I think is the problem. And she was told that she could go, but she had to be back before Osaka was, or they're going to start penalizing her for it. And she was like, well, what happens? Because I think so often both players leave the court or one player leaves, and then that's what they're having as their break. They announce it, and then the other one uses it another time, but both players exit the court because they're both using the fact that the other one is gone to take it. So I wasn't actually aware of this, because I know that Iga Swiatek, for example, if she loses the first set, she will always take her break then. as a regrouping sort of thing, because then you've only got one set to stay in a tournament, for example. But I was quite shocked by this because I don't think these are the rules that are being used everywhere. I think this is quite a hard line approach from the umpire in this case, because I've never seen that happen where you start to penalize someone for not coming back when, we've had huge breaks. I mean, you look at the Yannick Sinner match, even between like the sets that happened after sort of the heat hit Yannick Sinner. I mean, that to me, and then another break after that, it makes me think rules are not being applied necessarily on a standardized basis, Joel. So I didn't love this. I felt it was a bit unnecessary, really.
Yeah, I think for me, I think actually Jovic should just gone straight away.
Like run off, yeah.
Yeah, she should have gone off at the same time as Osaka. I think if there's anything I might say is that she was speaking to the umpire, she was wasting in essence some of her time, and if she had just gone straight away, then maybe it wouldn't have been such an issue. But I mean, she'd already changed outfits, so I guess yeah, bit of a tricky situation.
But
But
you made a good point around the fact that, I mean, it's not like the women can change on court.
yes, exactly.
So that's why we don't see the men have to go to leave and change as much, unless obviously they're changing their shorts and everything. But
I guess it's there, so it's not being used so tactically. I mean, you get one chance, and that's fine for all the players, but you can't get like an endless amount.
or they push it and they do I'm going to take a break now for bathroom for one set, and I'm going to do my clothing for the second set, and they spread it out because then, they could have a bit of time. But I mean, it's tough to know, but I feel like, I mean, these rules really are quite strange when you think about
Very
it.
archaic, I think.
Yeah.
To think, going back to the US Open 2018, Elise Cornet, I mean, she got a code violation because I think she was wearing her top backwards, swapped it around on the court, and the umpire, as I said, kind of very quickly gave them a code violation. So yeah, very tricky situation. But we're going to take a quick break now. Do join us in the second half where we will be discussing the men's action from day 7 at Roland Garros, including Yannick Sinner's conqueror, Juan Manuel Cerundolo, making even more history. Plus, we look ahead to day 8 with Novak Djokovic's conqueror, João Fonseca, set to do battle in the night session against former Roland Garros 2-time finalist Casper Ruud. So do not go anywhere. Welcome back to the Tennis Weekly podcast, and it's time now to look back on the men's action from day 7 at Roland Garros. And Chris, we had some absolute marathons on the men's draw this time. Lots and lots.
They're not in a rush, are they?
Yeah, I mean, what Arnaldi Collignon, Juan Cerundolo against Lando Luce went 5 sets. Berrettini, Comisana went 5 sets.
Well, 3 ending in a final set tiebreak, which I just could not believe. I mean, has that ever happened? I tried to find out beforehand, but I'm not sure the record's been updated. But that was the Berrettini win, the Juan Manuel Cerundolo win, and then Arnaldi. And I feel like, is there something going on there where it's because it's so hot, it's more like that they kind of are physically a match, and they just have to they almost need to shake hands and say, look, we'll just play one set shootout.
I mean, for me, I feel like it just shows how evenly competitive, a lot,
or how bad they are at closing matches out.
Yeah, all that. I guess so. But I mean, which match shall we start with? Which one was the one that impressed you most? Which victory impressed you most, would you say?
I think I'm gonna go with Sinner's conqueror. I think Cerundolo's victory. I think he was absolutely locked in on that Sinner match, and I was watching this one in the final set tiebreak, and I just thought he's going to do it again because he's really been tested, and I think this was another test, again, physical test, but also the mental test, and I think he was so much more mentally there, even though it was so close in that final set tiebreak. It was very much, he said, beat me, and then if he wasn't able to, then Landaluce was actually, making errors. So I thought this was truly epic. And Joel, I believe it's the longest match since the final set tiebreak was introduced at Roland Garros. Is that correct?
That is correct. 5 hours, 58 minutes. I'm a little bit sad it actually didn't tick over officially into the over 6
I'm not
hours.
sure they'd be sad it didn't go longer, but
I mean, just spare a thought for Lando Luce as well. I read a stat that he has been on court more than Rafael Nadal was on court for the whole of his run to being 2017 champion.
well,
So
can we give him a little trophy? Give him something.
Yeah,
He's going home with nothing. But he's also actually, taken a bit of history, I believe, from Sinner. Cerundolo still sticking it to Sinner by the fact that this was longer than last year's final.
I mean, to think that, to think it's just really, I think, exacerbated the kind of the physicality issues I think facing Sinner at the moment. Sinner was not able to complete 3 full sets of tennis on a tennis court.
Well, he did complete it, but he couldn't compete at his highest level.
He didn't complete 3 sets of tennis without starting to feel dizzy and dehydrated. And Juan Manuel Cerundolo has gone and done that against Sinner 5 sets, and now he's gone and done this 5 hours 58 minutes against Lando Luce. I mean,
they're like Duracell bunnies, this next generation, aren't they?
Yeah, but it was sadly, it was a bit of bittersweet moment for the Cerundolo brothers, because Francisco Cerundolo, fought back valiantly against Svazda, the American, to take it to a 5th set, but lost 6-3 in the 5th. What does this make of how do you think the Cerundolo household is feeling at the moment? Because I always felt like over the last couple of seasons that there was this perception that Francisco Cerundolo was the better brother. And even in this tournament, I think a lot of people were looking at how the draw opened up for him, thinking this was a big opportunity for him. And actually the defeat today, probably one of the hardest to take in his career so far. Has Juan Manuel kind of stolen his thunder, do you think, with this Roland Garros?
Well, if you remember, when they started, even though Juan Manuel is younger, he won a title first. So he was the one who sort of announced himself in that way. It's giving kind of like Venus and Serena, but on a local Argentine level, where Serena won a slam first before Venus did. But I mean, it's going to hurt. I think Cerundolo's always been a bit touch and go when it comes to the mental side of things. I don't think he's rock solid. I think we're seeing like why Juan Manuel is having a better run here is because he has been so strong mentally. I think it's going to be a big challenge for him to kind of get over the fact that he did have this huge opportunity to do something here. Cerundolo, the draw was really opening up. I mean, Svider, who he was playing, is someone who I personally had not been very familiar with. He's had a losing record this year. And then obviously Cerundolo came back into the 5th set, and you would have thought the person who's won the last 2 sets so often does go all the way, especially when it's 2 sets to 1. It tends to be a bit of a stampede in that respect. So he's going to be very disappointed by that. I think there's, it's tricky when you look at these results because you never know physically how you're going to feel. And maybe there was something to it where, the energy it takes to come back 3 sets in a row in the heat could also just be, it's one step too far.
Yeah. I mean, just a word also on Matteo Berrettini, a fan favourite. He's into the second week of a Grand Slam for the first time since Wimbledon 2023. Another incredible match that went 15-13 in the final set tiebreak against the Argentinian Comisana. I mean, this is just another incredible story. To think Berrettini lasted that long, just kind of feel-good moment.
He's been plagued by retirements, hasn't he? And injuries. And I always remember the Wimbledon where he had to pull out because of COVID. And I think everyone thought he maybe could be the favourite there. So I think everyone's happy when he's doing well. And if he'd have lost this one, it would have been, very similar to the Cerundolo situation.
I mean, it's been good actually for the Italians. I know Yannick Sinner's gone out, but no one is talking about Flavio Cobolli, who hasn't dropped a set yet, is into round 4. I thought he was going to be pushed quite hard by Lernatin, but dispatched him 6-2, 6-2, 6-3. I think he could be, maybe perhaps a bit of a dark horse to watch in the tournament.
Well, highest seed left in the top half. I mean, that surely has got to make him think.
And he's playing like a top seed as well.
Yeah, I mean, we did talk about this and the fact that I think I said I didn't think that anyone. I thought more people from Next Gen are going to make it to the quarterfinals and later than from like the rankings of like 3 to 8 or whatever it is that we were looking at when they had shown no clay form. And I think that Kaboli's in that sort of league after that, and I think that's the people who are now really stepping up as well. Even though I'm not sure if he counts as next gen, he's more of a peer, to Sinner and Alcaraz. But I mean, he's the only person who's actually playing to the form that they showed prior to the tournament, really.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, just before we look on to the order of play for tomorrow, what I've noticed is that we've got kind of very familiar nations, making up the numbers in these rounds in the draw, but it's very unfamiliar names. You talk about Italians, for example. Yannick Sinner is out, but Berrettini is through.
Arnaldi.
Arnaldi as well. And then again, you look at the Americans. I mean, there was more hope, I think, on players like Ben Shelton. I know Taylor Fritz was coming a little bit injured, even Francis Tiafoe. But to think that Zvider could be one of the last Americans in the draw, is incredible. I mean, why do you think we're seeing this in terms of like unfamiliar names from the top nations, almost trumping kind of the more favorite players from their countries?
Well, I'm not sure I can really speak of I think Sinner is an exceptional case because he's an Italian that can't withstand the heat, which is quite unusual. I think he's obviously from the mountains, I guess, as well, and quite fair. So I think that could be he's the exception. I think the the Italians do really well in these temperatures. I think they're able to withstand that. I think on the American side of things, I think a lot of the top American players don't have the grind that is necessary. And I think they've been away now for quite a while from home. I think a lot of them thrive playing at home. Tiafoe loves it. Tommy Paul loves it. I think there's something that they really enjoy about playing in front of an American audience. And I think someone like, Svider is someone who's been out on the Challenger Tour. They're competing. It's not glamorous. And I think this isn't a glamorous Roland Garros. So I think it's about, as I said for Coco Gauff, it's about victory belongs to the most tenacious. And I don't think the top Americans are tenacious. I think they're actually sometimes the opposite of that.
Interesting. Well, let's look at the order of play for tomorrow. We've got Marta Kostyuk and Iga Świątek opening up on Philippe Chatrier.
It's very early, 11. They've made it earlier.
Well, yeah, and I mean, Świątek, she is always requesting this first slot. She has
the Świątek slot. She's back in the slot.
She has got her wish yet again. Svitolina Bencic follows, then Jesper de Jong versus Alexander Zverev, Ruud Fonseca in the night session, and then we've got Castella Wong, Hodar, PCB, Carreño Busta, Andreeva, Jill Teichmann, and then Mensik Rublev. So some very exciting matches across the board. Where are your eyes looking to? I feel like we've got to make some predictions as well.
Okay, I can tell you where I'm looking. I'm looking at how many games Wong is going to get against Cristea. Will she get one game? That's probably the question I have. But matches, I think, will be very interesting. I think Mensik Rublev will be fascinating because big opportunity for them. I'm not looking at De Jong Zverev. I think that's probably going to be relatively straightforward.
Yep.
I think Svitolina is going to make it through. I think probably match of the day for me would be Kostyuk, Świątek, I think, and Ruud Fonseca. I think they are
okay. Right. Well, let's lend the episode. Let's make some predictions. I want just these two matches. Okay. I want winner, number of sets as usual. Kostyuk, Świątek.
I think it's going to be 3 sets to Iga.
Ooh, I'm going to say Kostyuk in 3 sets. Even though I said yesterday that Iga has the edge, I'm going Kostyuk in 3.
I'm about to say you didn't look like you believe that, but
and Ruud Fonseca.
I think Casper's going to do it. I think the night slot. Oh, the heat stops, hasn't it, from tomorrow? So, I mean, I think he's going to do it. I think the experience will tell, and I think it's going to be very hard to have that same level of feeling inside Fonseca's body as playing against the greatest of all time on Philippe Chatrier in a 5th set. Like it's such a big moment, and I think when you kind of get back to the regular players that you'll be up against, I think maybe the magic will be hard to re-find. But I would love to see it. But
okay.
I just think there's something about Casper Ruud. When I saw him down and out, being bageled by Safulin, I just thought now he's back from the dead. Okay. And I think this is going to be a resurrection story.
I'm going to say Fonseca in 5.
Not another
Okay.
5 set
Oh
match,
well,
please.
I feel like
Please.
probably both of them don't want it to go to 5, but I'm going to go Fonseca in
I'm going to
5.
say Casper in 4.
Okay, well, we'll have to wait and see, but we're going to wrap up our Roland Garros Day 6 catch up here at Tennis Weekly HQ. Is it Day 6? I'm going to forget. It's Day 7, I
It's
think.
day 7, I
Day
think.
7, there we go. See, I'm already getting confused, and we're not even halfway there yet. But yes, our Day 7 catch up here at Tennis Weekly HQ has been wrapped up. We hope you've enjoyed the ride with us. Remember to subscribe so you don't miss a moment of action from Paris, where we are producing daily episodes across the fortnight. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and all your favorite podcasting platforms out there. And if you love what you're hearing, be sure to leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, as well as hit that like and subscribe button on YouTube.
And you can stay connected with us on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, X, and Threads. The handle for all of those is Tennis Weekly Pod. And if you'd like to get in touch with us during a Grand Slam, we don't always have a mailbag, but if you would like to tell us something, then you can email us at tennisweeklypod@gmail.com or visit our website, tennisweekly.co.uk.
And we'll be back on Sunday for our Roland Garros Day 8 catch up. But until then, it's goodbye from Chris.
Goodbye.
And it's goodbye from me. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time on Tennis Weekly.